In a lot of my videos about Doom 2 levels, I allude to the fact that Doom 2 struggles when it comes to its bigger outings, at least in my opinion. A lot of this is because the ambition of the levels outstrip the ability to recreate that within the limitations of the Doom engine. At least in 1994. Doom 2 strove to make Earth a reality in Doom games, but I'd argue that most of the Earth-based levels aren't what you'd quite expect. Some of them are good, but they don't scratch that itch. The Hell levels are more disappointing in my opinion, because the original Doom managed to convey a very strong theme around Hell, even if some of the levels in that episode were not that great. You'd hope that Doom 2 could take that and run with it, but for some reason a lot of the Hell levels in Doom 2 are just not that good. It leaves Doom 2's later levels feeling a bit all over the place. They're fun, but not quite what you were hoping for. But there's one level in Doom 2 that I think actually does stick the landing and delivers not only a striking visual experience but an incredibly fun one to boot. I'm talking about the penultimate level in Doom 2, The Living End. Designed by John Romero, The Living End stands as one of the best examples of what larger levels could achieve in Doom 2. It's held up by a lot of Doom fans as one of the best outings in the entire game, a sentiment consistently expressed across various message boards over the years. Unlike other large levels in Doom 2, the Spirit World manages to rein in its focus and delivers an excellent offering. It's visually pleasing, very atmospheric, and fun to actually play through. Even the opening seconds of the level showcase a level of grandeur that Doom 2 has only flirted with up to this point. You don't simply start shooting, you are lowered into the chamber where you're greeted by an immense room, showcasing multiple pathways across the outside, a large lake of boiling blood, and a structure in front of the player which resembles a throne, at least to me. Before you even have a chance to do anything with this, you're greeted by enemies from in front of you and around the player who are looking to shoot at you. With little cover and enemies right in front of the player, survival mode kicks in straight away. It's a tense standoff. Little room is afforded to the player, and if they aren't careful and aware of their surroundings, health will quickly become a problem. As the player snakes their way around the walkway around the edge of the large room, the true scale of proceedings becomes apparent. There's so much space within this level, yet there's nothing the player can do to reach those spaces except continue fighting forward. Encounters in this level are meticulous and challenging, forcing the player to make effective use of the environment and architecture within to provide temporary cover. Even while all this is going on, those enemies from on high will still be trying their luck to get a shot in on you. Not only this, there's a chance that cacodemons from further in the level will head in your direction to cause a nuisance. This level is dangerous, intense, and isn't afraid to punish players who aren't paying full attention to it. Unlike Romero's other offerings in Doom 2, there's very little room for the player to explore off the beaten track. In Industrial Zone, you're forced to explore every nook and cranny to find the way forward. In Circle of Death, the pathway forward isn't always super clear, so exploration becomes part of that experience. Here in The Living End, there are very few times in the level where the pathway forward isn't explicitly laid out to the player. Sure, there are points where there are multiple pathways, but these aren't the main way forward, they're just how you get to that pathway forward. I think nothing encapsulates this more than when you fall off the pathways, you're forced to go racing through that boiling blood, looking for a teleporter to get back on the pathway. Sure, you can run to certain teleporters in the blood and be teleported ahead, but only those who've suffered through the torment of getting it wrong previously will know where those teleporters are. It's a kind of reward for the player, in a very sick way. Further on in the level, there are small tests of strength for the player. Having to survive an ambush from cacodemons while the platform you've just raised goes up ever so slowly. Having to deal with rooms stuffed with cacodemons and pain elementals, all overseen by a mancubus before facing off against an archvile and his shotgun minions. This level is not afraid to throw the player in at the deep end, and quite rightly too. This is the penultimate level of Doom 2, and this should be a firm test of the abilities that the player has acquired through playing the whole game. The entire level works together to create a foreboding and intense atmosphere. The use of lighting helps to push this forward, even though I've seen some say that Romero went a bit too far in making parts of this level too dark. But for me, perhaps the biggest disappointment in this level is that final encounter with the Cyberdemon. It almost feels like an afterthought. As you make your way up the pathway to the exit, the Cyberdemon is able to begin rising, but for the player, their eyes will already be set exclusively on that exit portal right behind them. And unfortunately, I feel that makes this the weakest part of a level, which is a real shame because I feel that the build up to this is so excellent. But ignoring this fact, The Living End is still such a fun encounter. It's one of the better looking Doom 2 levels, plays brilliantly and ups the difficulty just enough that even the most veteran of players will still pause for thought. And for me personally, it's easily my favourite Doom 2 level, and I don't even feel that that's a close discussion. Romero crafted an excellent experience with this one. The Living End, for me, is everything a penultimate level should be in Doom, and one that truly, and finally, captures the sense of what Doom 2 is and probably could have been. It's a top-draw encounter for me that makes great use of the space that it tries to embody. While many of the large levels in Doom 2 struggle for consistent quality, The Living End for me is the embodiment of what those levels should have been. It's a top-draw outing for me, and one that more than earns the praise it receives. For me personally, this is one of the great intros to any classic Doom level. The fact that you are not just dropping into the level, but you're greeted by this vista in front of you. All of this geometry, all of this sort of architecture that you're stirring upon, I think it's so cool that this is kind of how the penultimate level opens up. And already you can see there's so much danger. We've got enemies on walkways to the left, we've got enemies up top in the cages that are trying to shoot at us, we've got imps around on that cliff there. There's so much danger in this level, and I think that's one of the things that really helps to make this level really stand out, because it's very rare in this level that you feel like you've got a moment to yourself to really take in what's happening. Before you even get a chance to really think about it, you've got to be already on your toes. Because as you can see, when we hit this switch, we've just unleashed a bunch of cacodemons and pain elementals, and obviously with them comes the lost souls. But I love the architecture here as well. We're using the stone wall aesthetic there on the left, and what I like is that it feels very fitting with the white floor here, but also the green brick in the middle. There's contrasts here in the way that this is designed, and even though we're just talking about Doom 2 here, we're not talking about anything particularly, you know, modern. I feel like this is great use of this space because it makes it feel interesting to look at. It's very visually pleasing in my opinion. And as we kind of make our way forward here, you can see there's a pain elemental there. There's always danger in this level. Even when you think you're safe and you're alone, you're not, because there's always going to be another enemy sort of hiding out of view. Now, of course, if you know what you're doing, you can actually run to a teleporter and skip all of this. But I just wanted to kind of come through this space just to show you just what this level brings to the table. And even when we're walking up to the teleporter here, you can see that those windows there opened up. If you drop down, you can actually come into a teleporter here that lets you come inside this cavern. Now, obviously, those chain gunners can cause massive damage if you don't take care of them. Gonna come back and grab some health. There's nothing wrong with doing this in my opinion. If you're smart with your health, you can always make sure you've got at least some health ready to go. But it's just the grandeur of this level. It's the fact that when you're looking around, you never feel like you are looking at something boring. For example, here we're climbing these stairs. It's very in keeping with the theme of what we were just experiencing, because you can see the staircase snakes around the outside of the chasm. I also kind of like the use of varied spaces in this level. It's something that Doom 2 struggles with in some levels, but in this level, there's a nice mix of wide open arenas, very claustrophobic spaces that the player's forced to encounter very strong enemies in. For example, here, when you go around that corner, you see these 3 Hell Knights. But luckily, the game gives you plenty of space to back out into, but it doesn't always do that. When we come down here, you can see that you have options in how you deal with the cacodemons here. You could run down into the the pain floor below, and you can run away and you can draw all these cacodemons back to an earlier point in the level. Or you can just fight them here and take them out while the platform there raises up. It's a nice little challenge, I think. I really like the use of the space here because it's very easy for players to get overwhelmed if they're not careful. But at the same time, if you're paying attention, you might have sort of realized what was coming here. So this is one of the parts of this level that I find most interesting to talk about, because here you're given 3 pathways, but only one of them is made available to the player. You've got to kind of complete these little challenge rooms in order to open up the final room, which lets you progress in the level. What I like about this is that these are pretty self-contained areas, so if you've rushed through to this point, you have an opportunity here to sort of stop and take account of what you've been doing so far. You've just got to be very careful because that mancubus at the back there can hit you. I like that these are sort of not one large puzzle, but they are sort of split up into these smaller little routes that you kind of have to deal with. I don't fancy that Cacodemon's chances. It did not survive. There's just enough challenge in these spaces to make this feel fun. And obviously as we head inside here, shotgunners by themselves don't present a challenge, but the fact is, you know, you've got to deal with all these guys, and they're on high, they're in front of us, they're in the distance. There's a lot of variety in how they're being utilized. Who's shooting? You're shooting. I also find it interesting they use the wood aesthetic here, considering that, you know, we're supposed to be in this big cavern. It makes me wonder what this structure is actually meant to be. But again, it's variety. I don't know if I like this section. I like that you can look outside. I like that you can kind of get a look at the hell sky one last time, because you do get to see it at the end of a level, but it's in the floor. But here you actually get to look outside, and it feels like you're looking into a much larger space. Like you're almost in like hell itself. And I don't know. It's a shame that you don't really kind of get to go outside a bit more in this level, but I guess that's not the theme that they were going for. So as we make our way into this final section here, you can see that there's a Baron of Hell here. What I really like here is that Romero's put in some line devs so that the Baron actually teleports around you. Now, it would have been interesting, I think, if they'd put in multiple enemies there, but clearly they decided that wasn't the case. What's interesting about this space here is that you kind of get ambushed as you come through into this sort of grey brick, well, grey stone area. Again, you're presented with 3 options here, but really there's only one that you can take immediately. But again, you can see here, there are enemies from on high shooting down at us. There's a mancubus down below there. If you don't take care of these enemies, they're just going to keep taking shots at you. They're going to pick away your health, and they pose an ever-present danger. That's something that this level really excels at, making enemies feel dangerous, because even though they're not right in front of you, they can still see you from a distance and hit you. Now, I'm trying to remember which one we have to go down first here. Okay, it's this one. So we'll hit this switch here. These aren't too challenging, to be honest, but I do like how, you know, you're kind of given options in how you want to handle all of this. Okay, oh wow, okay, he's knocked me down there. So the thing is, if I didn't have armor, this would be doing a lot more damage to me. That's what I get for being too cute with the chain gun there. I should have used the super shotgun, but I just love this space. I feel like, again, little challenges that are here to test the player. These little walkways mean that you can't just sort of run around running away from the rockets that the bony boy shoots at you. And then as we head towards the end here, you can see that we've got 2 Barons of Hell at the back there. A bit difficult to see because they've made this section a bit darker. But have you noticed as we're going through this level, there's this feeling of growing anticipation. The fact that it feels like we are journeying towards the end. There's a build in this level that's just so cool, in my opinion. And even though there isn't much around on the right hand side of the cavern here, I do love the fact that, you know, that space is there to be explored, even if there's nothing there. It just adds to the sense of what this level is. So now we can finally take out the enemies here. I think a Cacodemon came over earlier to fight off against one of those. So here's the disappointing part of this level for me. The Cyberdemon encounter here, I think, should have been a bigger deal, because when you walk over the top of the steps there, it raises it up. But the problem for me is that most players will run into that exit there and they won't look back. In my opinion, either they should have put a timer on it so that it releases after 30 seconds. They should have done something, I think, to make this sort of more of a fixture. But obviously, I don't think they were really thinking about that when they made this. And in my opinion, this is an excellent penultimate level. There's a rising sense of scale, escalation in the tension, and it just feels like you're building towards something massive. Now, unfortunately, what this level is building towards is Icon of Sin, but you know, back in 1994, you weren't to know that when you went through that teleporter. The Living End for me is an excellent penultimate level. It brings together all the different themes from across Doom 2 and it marries them in a way that I think is super effective in showcasing that Doom 2 could actually have big levels that strove for great ambition and didn't collapse under the weight of their own ambition. Of all of Romero's levels in Doom 2, this one is head and shoulders above the rest for me. And like I've said in videos in the past, I think it's a real shame that this wasn't the final level and that there wasn't a boss section that came after that teleporter. But hey ho, let me know what you think of The Living End. Are you a fan of this one? Are you not a fan of this one? Do you think I'm talking absolute rubbish saying this is the best Doom 2 level? Let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching.